Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles post-game show. Bo Wulf, Jamie Lynch, Zach Berman joining us in a little bit. And the good news is the Eagles are 4-0 after Jake Elliott knocks home a 54-yard field goal in overtime to give the Eagles a 34-31 victory. The bad news is I feel like everybody in Philadelphia has significantly more heartburn after that very weird, very wild game. But the Eagles are 4-0. Jamie,
Yeah,
how do you feel?
I got to crack a victory
beer?
Yeah, calm the nerves after that end of the game, fourth quarter overtime. I'm sure we'll dissect every decision that was made there, but lot of like football philosophy type stuff at the end of that game. Reed Blankenship's forearm might get the MVP award.
Yeah.
Jake Elliott.
I feel like his forearm should go to the podium for the post-game press conference. He should not talk. It should
Just
be
draw a
maybe he
face
could draw
on
like
there.
lips on it and like talk with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild play because
Don't check this.
it was a wild game. There was a lot going on from, do you score with that much time left? We'll get into that.
Not.
A minute 43 left in the game there. The defense all day, some of the play calling, kind of a lot to get into. But yes, they are 4-0. And still, I think we are left saying, when are we going to see their best football?
This is the worst 4-0 team I've ever seen. Which is probably true.
Yeah, I mean, that was a tough win, if there is such a thing.
Yeah, and now listen, division games are weird.
Yes.
There were a lot of very weird and, bad calls, these things that were sort of going against the Eagles. And so to fight through all of those things, to get the win is important, right? You respect that.
Sure.
And
the main thing is the main thing.
You got to keep the thing about football is that you got to keep the main thing the main thing.
You have to.
And low man wins and all those other things. But you do have to give credit to to Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni and all those guys for coming up with the win when they could. I think there is a lot to unpack about how sort of sloppily they handle in-game management stuff. I think there's some play calling stuff to talk about. The defense, did not really hold up their end of the bargain in this game. In a
Nicholas Morrow.
Except Nicholas Morrow.
He's like Lawrence Taylor now.
Apparently.
Yeah.
3 sacks for Nicholas Morrow. Nobody had that. We did not have that in our best bets in the pregame show. I mean, A.J. Brown goes for 175 yards on 9 catches and 2 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts tops 300 yards passing for the first time this season. All of that stuff is good, but there is a lot to complain about. But I also think it's that first half is weird, right? It's being played at the Commanders' sort of pace, right? It's being played at their level. They have a 14-yard drive to score a touchdown on the very first possession of the game.
7 minutes, yeah.
7 minutes, Eagles respond, and then the Commanders go up 17-7. Eagles get a field goal at the end of the half, and then they have a big third quarter, right? They take a 24-17 lead. But this is where sort of you were hoping the defense would, once the game flow moved into their direction, they'd be able to really tee off on Sam Howell. And I think you and I were both pretty impressed with Sam Howell in this game.
Sam Howell's pretty good. He was putting the ball on the money.
He's the best quarterback they faced this season.
Yeah, he really might be. He was putting the ball on the money all day, and
the throw to McLaurin on the Blankenship forearm play was a hell of a throw.
And even the Dotson touchdown there, it was a perfectly placed ball away from who was that? Job.
Yeah.
He's a very accurate passer, it appears, and he, I don't know if they want to build a franchise around him yet, but he's not bad.
He's not bad.
He's not bad.
And so the real inflection point of this game, right, is it's 24-24. The Eagles get a chance to go score a touchdown. They don't. They have to punt it away. And boy, does that punter not look very good.
No, Aaron Sipas, come on back, please. We miss you.
And we're sorry. Sorry for all of the choice words over the years. Then the defense gets a stop. So the offense gets the ball back with about 4 minutes left with a chance to ice this game away, kick a field goal. And it was funny because it's such a parallel to the end of the Super Bowl, right? Where the Chiefs get the ball, and the one thing you don't want them to do is to just hold on to the ball and kick a chip shot field goal with no time on the clock.
That's
right?
really just
give
deflating.
up a touchdown.
Yeah.
Give up a touchdown, please. Then we can have a chance to score. And the Eagles have the ball with about 1:40 left. Washington calls their second timeout, and they have a 2nd and 4. And so if you get 1 first down, you have a chance to just end the game.
Pretty
right?
much.
Or at the very worst case scenario, you're going to overtime. Instead, and you don't want to like take away the aggressiveness from guys. Like you want to go score touchdowns. That's great. But Jalen Hurts throws a touchdown pass to A.J. Brown, who then, taunts Emmanuel Forbes.
Which
that comes into play. And so now Washington's going to get the ball back with a chance to score. And if they wanted to, go for 2 and win the game. And so now you're in a position where you could lose the game by scoring a touchdown. The defense does not hold up their end of the bargain. A lot of, there were a couple of 4th down conversions. Credit to the Commanders there. And then I do feel like if you're a Riverboat Ron, you got to go for 2 there.
Yeah.
So what did you make of scoring a touchdown from Jalen Hurts to AJ Brown there?
Jason in the chat says we got lucky. Yeah, I kind of agree that there was a hint of luck to this game. They clearly saw something with the double move on Foster because they tried it again in overtime.
Yeah, they were killing Emmanuel Forbes all game.
Or Forbes, yeah. Who did I say? I blacked out.
Foster.
Anyway, Foster.
That's Zach's guy, Emmanuel Forbes. He's been talking about him for years.
They clearly saw something there with him and knew they had that, but it's hard to say you don't like a touchdown play call there. But me and you looked at each other right away and went, oof, 1:43 left.
That's not a smart thing to do.
And Sam Howell was kind of carving you up. And it was ballsy.
I mean, listen, I realize that it's like a very Philadelphia thing to like complain about the way that you scored a touchdown.
Sure.
We're like, oh, that's not the right way to do it. But I mean, they did open up a possibility of losing the game when in that scenario, as long as you were holding on to the ball and if you can get 4 yards, you're going to have a chance to just kick the ball as time expires. So anyway, we saw the Commanders go down, and on the last play of the game, they get that really nice throw from Howell to Jahan Dotson. The Commanders get the ball to start overtime. Defense gets a stop, and then with a few hiccups in there and a borderline intentional grounding call on Jalen Hurts, eventually Jake Elliott puts through the 54-yarder to win.
Yeah, I didn't understand a couple play calls there in overtime. The intentional grounding play call looked like Jalen had checked out of or kept the same play. I'm curious if Zach will get that info of did he keep the same, because they clearly recognized the blitz was coming. They either checked out of it or just kept it the same. But him and A.J. Brown were not on the same page there. And A.J. Brown did not get the either new play or there was a couple miscommunication errors there throughout. You saw one with Goddard too late. So they certainly have some things to clean up offensively. But yeah, like I'm kind of surprised now looking back on it, all of 25 minutes ago that Ron Rivera didn't go for it there.
Yeah, you're the underdog. What are we doing?
Yeah, you're on the road. Like you have a chance to win the game. That fires your team
I'm not
up.
the first person to say this, but it does feel like a good gut check is like, what does the other team not want me to do?
Yeah.
And wouldn't you have felt much more nervous if they were going for 2 there as opposed to you get overtime and you get to start again?
I think they lose the game. I mean, there's no way to prove that, but the defense today.
And this is exactly what the Eagles could have done if they had only given up a touchdown to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Then they could have gone and scored a touchdown and gone for 2.
Yeah, the defense was the most concerning part about today, for sure. They didn't get Washington let up 9 sacks last week. You saw a decent amount of pressure. Morrow had 3. Jalen Carter was in on a half of 1. I think Reddick had 1 in like a quarter. So you had some guys getting pressure, but Sam Howell also seemed to pick apart that soft coverage underneath and in the middle.
It seemed like there was a lot of sort of soft coverage on 3rd down, right, where they were just giving him the first down, which is not what you want to see.
No, and Jonathan Gannon, before he set the record for sacks and all of that, we used to get roasted anytime they played a good quarterback. He would allow completion percentages of 75% or better, which is like unheard of. And I kind of was having flashbacks to that a little bit, where it was like you're giving these guys a lot of easy completions, and once a quarterback kind of warms up and gets in the motion and gets that confidence, that's something that they can build off of. And I think Sam Howell was feeling pretty damn good out there today.
Yeah, and I think that if you were analyzing this game before the game, which we did all week, you thought that the Eagles were going to be able to get after Sam Howell with just their 4,
sure,
right? Without having to blitz. And so the fact that they had to dial it up so much, and Nicholas Morrow looks like Lawrence Taylor and gets those 3 sacks, they were not able to affect Howell enough. And he did make some nice plays getting away from the rush and using his legs. He's a white guy, so we have to say that he's sneaky athletic. But I think that was a little bit disappointing. And without Justin Evans, Terrell Edmonds was playing safety. I thought he did okay.
He had a couple rough sequences there.
He sure did. He dropped an interception on a really nice pressure from Brandon Graham. One of my favorite parts of this game, which is a very small play in the game, is when Darius Slay goes out for that. He gets injured for tackling John Bates.
Yeah.
And the Commanders get to run a play with no Darius Slay on the field, and they go heavy. So the Eagles can just keep two corners on the field. They didn't want to just test whoever the Eagles' fourth corner was. Like, no, we're good. We'll throw it deep here.
I know he's hurt. We'll give him a play to get
let's
back.
Be fair. Let's be sporting. Yeah. Anyway, I feel like what is your general takeaway? Are we sticking with the worst 4-0 team ever?
No, not that. I mean, my takeaway was there's some concerning things defensively, and my two main takeaways are the defense allowing a lot of easy completions all day, and two, Brian Johnson's play calling situationally. There was a couple situations, on that 2nd and 3, they decide to take a 50-yard shot when a field goal wins
overtime,
it.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? And then the 3rd and 3 play was the Devontae Smith play,
which
should have been run on 2nd down, so you're at a 3rd and 1. The touchdown play, as we called, it's great, but is that the right play call there?
Sure.
So there just seemed to be a lot of situational calls that were questionable.
And it's probably a question over the course of the week to follow up on is, how much of that is Jalen audibling at the line, or how much leeway does he have for stuff like that versus what actually is called, and what is Nick Sirianni's role in all of that. Jalen Hurts goes 25 of 37 for 319, the 2 touchdowns. By the numbers, as a passer, it's his best game of the year. 112.3 quarterback rating. He was above 0 in terms of EPA per dropback for the first time this season. By success rate, it looks like he was at 51%, whereas he was at 58% last week, but he had the 2 interceptions, so that dropped his EPA down. I still don't think that he looks right. Do you?
There was one deep ball to Devontae Smith where he appeared to miss him by 43 yards, and I thought Devontae was open. He looked really off on that. I think the second half he looked a lot better than the first half. We talked about his running.
He looks slow.
He does look a little slow.
There was that one really nice run, right?
Yeah, where he ducked and escaped out the middle.
Yeah, and it felt like that was much more natural, right? Whereas these ones where he's scrambling around, or even the quarterback draws, and then he's sliding for 1 yard or 2 yards. What are we doing here?
I literally looked at you at one play and I go, if they call the quarterback draw here, and it was the Swift RPO, PRO quarterback keep play, and Swift looked like he had 6 or 7 yards up the middle potentially, and Hurts kept it and went out wide for a yard. And I was like, why are you calling that here? DeAndre Swift has looked great. Still, he's picking up 6 yards a carry. I don't know why there was a hesitancy to not just pound the rock a little bit more, especially situationally. I don't. I was encouraged by Jalen's second half. I think he was putting the ball on the money for the most part. It looks a little slow in the running game. Some of the play calling, I think, needs to get tightened up. There was too many miscommunication plays. The end of the game, the Goddard play. Yeah. It happened last week with Goddard. I don't know what's going on, if Brian Johnson's late getting the play calls in, whatever that may be. We can talk to Zach about that. But, it certainly seems a little clunky still. It has its moments of looking, like a sports car, and then it has its moments of, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, and I think the sports car moments are mostly A.J. Brown driven.
He was great.
He was very good.
So was Devontae.
Devontae makes that rising catch, which brought to mind the catch he made in Washington last season when he just goes up and gets it. There was the throw that Hurts made in, the honey hole, the turkey hole there in the cover 2 to A.J. Brown. That was really nice. And then obviously A.J. Brown has the long touchdown reception for 59 yards. And what hustle from Olamide Zaccheaus on that.
I looked at you right away and I go, does Quez make that block?
Yeah.
And I think it's a fair question to ask,
think it is
because
a fair question.
Part of the reason they brought him in here was he's that gritty kind of blocking wide receiver that will do whatever's asked of him. And a hell of a play by him, and Devontae was downfield blocking as well, allowing AJ to get in there. But AJ Brown he's special, man. The taunting call was a little weak. I mean, it is taunting.
Yeah.
Like, he's got to know
probably
better.
Shouldn't do that in that situation.
The ref's
I did think it was pretty tepid as far as taunting
It
goes.
is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you got to know the refs are going to probably call that. But he is a special talent, man. That guy is a beast.
I think there's no doubt about that. I think he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory.
Yeah, he really is.
DeAndre Swift, 14 for 56 for 4 yards a carry and a touchdown. He also had 4 catches for 23 yards and also drew that pass interference penalty on what would have been a big play in the passing game. I thought as you said, I thought he looked better than those numbers indicate. That 14 for 56, he was making stuff happen. So.
Yeah, he was. And credit to the offensive line. Them in pass protection today. I thought, Jordan Mailata had a rough day.
He did.
Chase Young and look, the Eagles haven't played Chase Young the last 3 times. So Nick Sirianni has never seen Chase Young, and he had an impact on the game in the first half. Mailata, I thought, was a little bit in hell there with him in the pass protection. But again, that's like one of those situations where it's like, do we get the running game going a little bit more and get the big guys, hitting people as opposed to setting and blocking more? So,
yeah, this was a passing game. 311 passing yards to 104 on the ground. Like you said, the offensive line was not great. There were some penalties too. Cam Jurgens left this game at halftime with a foot injury. Was replaced by Sua Opeta. I thought Opeta did well actually. Now I'm an avowed Opeta guy, right? So. Yeah. They start the second half. I'm like, Sua's on the field. There he is, my baby boy.
Yeah.
But earlier this week, I asked Zach if he thought it was interesting that the Eagles are undefeated over the past 2 years in games in which Sua Opeta plays more than 15 snaps. He said no, and all of a sudden it comes in. That's why they won the game today, I think.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, it stops being a coincidence after a while.
You know what? That's right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. This is correlation, or this is causation and not correlation. I think elsewhere on offense, the Goddard thing is still a little bit mystifying.
Yeah.
Now, he had a drop that they were a little bit fortunate didn't turn into something worse.
Yep.
But he only has 2 catches for 25 yards on 4 targets. I don't know where, did they just lose? That page of the playbook is not a real thing, but it feels like somebody misplaced the Dallas Goedert part of the offense.
Yeah, and there was one play call. I think Jalen ended up keeping it where Dallas was wide open.
Yes.
On one. I think it was in the second quarter, if I'm not mistaken. Right. I don't want to say Jalen's not looking at him, but he missed a really big opportunity with Dallas on that one. Yeah, it is a weird kind of situation. Why he's disappeared from the passing attack so much. Maybe it has to do with the way defenses are now playing the Eagles. Which is, the reason why these quarterback draws aren't really working as well. Because I don't want to say spy, but it's almost like you're dropping into a linebacker zone-ish situation if they're not rushing. And maybe that's jamming Goddard's routes up a little bit. But they clearly are playing the Eagles differently after a year of tape.
What did you make of the refs today?
The refs. Dog shit. I don't want to. We won, so it's fine. We can complain about it now. The pass interference calls were horrendous.
Yeah,
very
the two
ticky-tacky.
The Bradbury one down the left sideline, that was a deep throw, was bad. The one on Slay on McLaurin was one of the worst I've ever seen.
That was within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage.
That if a wide receiver
doesn't call for it,
drops his head because he knows that he got beat on the rep, and is not asking for a flag, then I think that's not a pass interference. So
and then I think the Jack Del Rio full diaper crying this week I think the NFL's on some kind of watch for this tush push. Because Payne's hand on that one,
right? So they call Landon Dickerson for lining up over the ball. Meanwhile, Deron Payne has his hand on the ball and is
under it,
face to face with Jason Kelce. So yes, if anything, that should be offsetting. But it did sort of feel like that was here's one thing we could do to stop this play that for whatever reason people are all up in arms about.
Yeah, I don't. They don't really even need the push from behind from a Gainwell or whoever. They more or less are just getting it themselves with a quarterback sneak. Tom Brady and the Patriots did that for over a decade. in high leverage spots and would always get it. So, you can't really, maybe you can eliminate the running back player behind pushing, but then it's like a weird line of like what's a push and what's just trying to make another block and accidentally hitting them. It's like, I don't know how you litigate that going forward, but I did enjoy that the Commanders tried to do it themselves. It worked once, it failed once in a big
Thomas
spot.
Just gets stood up.
Yeah,
by Jalen Carter.
that was Jalen Carter just picking a man
and
up.
then another
and
weird
moving
one
him.
where Sirianni could have taken 4th and 2, I think, instead of the 3rd and 6 or 3rd and 7.
I disagreed with
Debatable.
That one.
Yeah.
I would have said, because you went for 2 the previous possession to take the field goal out of the game, so then you're
to be up 7, right?
flipping the board on Ron Rivera and going, all right, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to kick a meaningless field goal right now, or do you want to try and go for the tush push on 4th and 1 here against us because you need the 7? So
and if we are like debating play calling and specific play calls, I would say my least favorite of the day was when they were up 4 and it's 3rd and goal from like the 11 or whatever it was. And they call like that coward sweep. They give the sweep to Gainwell. They're just giving up, taking those 3 points. He fumbles the ball and Lane Johnson falls on it. But like, what are we doing? Like,
that was a strange play call as well.
Try to get the ball to the end zone, please.
Yeah, it was the second down.
They've had so many coward sweeps this year. It's
the second down play call wasn't good either on front of it, and it was almost like, are you guys just conceding on a field goal here on 2nd down at like the 25? Again, Brian Johnson's red zone offensive play calling has been, the hot conversation on Twitter when I go on during the games, and I can't really tell anybody anything to calm them down there. I don't think it's been good. It's something, you need to be better at.
1 of 2 officially on trips in the red zone for the Eagles in this game. Just in terms of like the weird things in this game that they sort of overcame that are not sort of week-to-week occurrences. This is an incomplete list, but you had on that opening drive, you had the 3rd down stop mitigated for the hold on Nicholas Morrow, which seemed a little bit ticky-tack. Then you had Edmonds dropping that interception on the Brandon Graham pressure. Then you had
the fumble in the end zone.
Right, Brian Robinson fumbling into the end zone, and McLaurin recovers for a touchdown. You had the Dickerson call. You had the Bradbury penalty. You had Antonio Gibson just fumbling a pitch, and the ball just bounced right back to him as if it was a basketball. You had the Darius Slay call we talked about. All of those things, like you expect some bad calls. The refs are not what decided this game, but a little bit of credit, I guess, for overcoming all of those things. That's, it felt a little bit like last year's Commanders game in which like all of these bizarre things happened and led to the loss. For them to be able to overcome that, it was you give them some credit.
Yeah, I don't understand what happens to the Commanders when they come to Philadelphia, but they get up for these games. I think they're a little bit better than I might have given them credit for. Actually seeing him play a whole game.
Howell's not bad, man.
He really isn't bad. And Brian Robinson's been pretty solid. And Terry McLaurin turns into Jerry Rice when he plays the Eagles. So, they're not a bad team. And it's a divisional football team. And a lot of people are probably going to, flip the narrative of, the Commanders suck. I can't believe you let them hanging around that long. I don't know that they suck. Their defensive front is pretty solid. They got some decent cornerback play today. Considering how good Devontae and AJ are. And Sam Howell made some throws, and they protected them better than I expected them to. So they're not a bad team. I don't think they're going to, cause fear in people's hearts, but they're a solid football team. I think they could
be. They'll be in the playoff conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
When 7 teams make the playoffs, I think they'll be involved. I think the general takeaway, just the first quarter of the season-ish, is... like it says a lot about how talented the Eagles are.
Sure.
That they have played like 3 like C+ games and like a B- game, and they're 4-0.
Yeah,
right?
take that.
And when they're playing just okay, they're still putting up 400 yards of offense. And you look around the league and all these other teams that's just struggle so much offensively. Like we're still saying Jalen Hurts doesn't look right. The play calling is an issue, and still, they put up 34 points in this game. They're over 400 yards of total offense for the 3rd straight week. They're like just okay is still very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of these things offensively, whether it be the play calling or the communication issues, those can all be shored up, and they have a good coaching staff, we believe. Brian Johnson still TBD in his new role, but Sirianni and Desai, I think. Desai will probably get a lot of questions this week about that soft coverage underneath, but, there's a lot of things that are fixable, and I'm pretty encouraged by Jalen's second half. So that's 2 weeks in a row where first half kind of looked a little suspect, and then he, kind of righted the ship in the second half. So I'm slightly encouraged by Jalen, but you still haven't seen the full kind of four quarters from him.
On defense, we talked about Morrow. I thought Zach Cunningham played a good game. The linebackers, it is surprising at how much they don't just not seem like an issue. The last 2 weeks they've been additive. They've seemed to have really been making plays.
Yeah, Morrow's had 2 games in a row now where this guy wasn't even on the team 3-4 weeks ago, and now he's had 2 really good games in a row. It looks like he's pretty much shored up a job even when Nakobe Dean comes back, which we can get an update from you and Zach this week on, hopefully. But Cunningham hasn't been bad either. They're getting picked on a little bit in passing. I don't think Morrow's great in the passing game, but he's shown an ability to get after the quarterback.
Jimmy Kemsky reporting from the locker room. Devontae Smith on Jake Elliott. He says, Chicken Little, nothing he can't do. And somebody asked, why Chicken Little? And he says, you ever seen Chicken Little? That's what he looks like.
That's great. So a lot of people say Jake Elliott's like the most athletic dude on the team.
He is. In terms of
picking up a
well-rounded athlete, he is. He's like close to a scratch golfer.
Yeah.
I think he's like a 2. He's like the best ping pong player. He's one of the best softball players. He was like a great tennis player in high school. He can do it all.
It's pretty damn nice. And I saw somebody tweet it earlier. I don't remember who it was. That Howie's greatest move could have been finding Jake Elliott from the Bengals practice squad. He's steady. Like when he lined up to take that game-winning kick, I went, he's got it.
Right.
Like I have that confidence with him. That's pretty rare.
Yeah, you could argue that in terms of how confident are you in the guy at doing his job? It's he's like 3rd or 4th on the whole team after Kelsey and Lane Johnson.
Yeah, probably. The comment section is saying, per Tolentino from the Inquirer, AJ was drug tested after the game.
Everybody loves that when the guy who has a big game gets drug tested.
Yeah, and he was up on the podium, and I just saw said he knows he can't taunt like that, and Dad Jalen Hurts told him that on the sidelines and held him accountable. So that was handled right away. Jalen squashed it and said, no more. Keep the main thing. Act like you've been there before.
Standard is the standard.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear the cliche count today from Zach when he checks in.
The lamp is always full.
There's probably going to be a ton of cliches today.
I see in the comments here, Ash says that Jimmy Kemsky says that Cam Jurgens is in a boot. So that would indicate that he may be out for more than just a week.
Well, you get your Suo Opeta games.
If he's going to play 15 snaps, they're going to win the games.
Yeah, the offensive line has been getting, luckily nothing major yet, but they have been getting dinged up a little bit. Dickerson last week, now Jurgens this week. Not obviously great, but hopefully it's minor.
Ron Rivera says he considered going for 2 at the end of regulation. As long as he considered it, that's all that matters. But the guys were gassed.
Well,
who else would have been gassed?
The defense.
The defense.
Yeah. I wonder if that's one that keeps them up tonight. That would probably torment me if I was a coach and I had that opportunity.
Yeah, but don't you also sort of get the sense that Ron Rivera knows this is the end of the road? The Josh Harris is going to bring in his own coach. He's probably not losing sleep about much. He's got to work. He's probably losing sleep about I got to show up to work and talk to Jack Del Rio again tomorrow. That's what's probably keeping him up.
Jack Del Rio's probably got bad breath too. He just looks like that kind of guy.
No doubt.
Yeah, he's got a real stinker in there. But even more so, if Ron Rivera thinks that this is the end and Josh Harris is going to bring in his guy, then go for it.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Talk about cowardly. The more and more I think about it, you got to go for that there, because that's a demoralizing loss. If you're the Eagles on your home field 2 years in a row, he's come in and beat you. Something in that fashion with a 2-minute game on the line drive like that, Yeah, the more and more I think about it, I'm like, yeah, you kind of pussed out a little bit there, Ron.
Not a good job.
No.
Not a good job.
Yeah.
What's your, Jake Elliott, we talked about, there was that one period right after he signed the extension when he did struggle a little bit. I think it was 2019. And ever since then, he's been nails again. It is wild, and you said like getting him off the Bengals practice squad. How much like the 2017 Caleb Sturgis injury, and the Bengals needing to keep Randy Bullock on the roster, even though Jake Elliott had been a 5th-round pick by them. You probably should keep the guy on the roster. How much that has been a big factor in Eagles history.
Yeah, I mean, he's, Justin Tucker is, the best, I guess. But outside of that, I mean, there's not many guys I would take over Jake Elliott. He's probably a top 3 kicker in this league, and he's got stones. Like when you saw him come out there for the game-winning field goal, he was going, all right, he was like calming everybody else down. He's going, all right, calm down, guys, calm down. I got this. Like, he's pretty cool.
Other side of the ball, we talked about Howell, 29 of 41 for 290 and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin, again, continues to be something of an Eagles killer, 8 catches for 86 yards. Would have been more if not for Reed Blankenship's forearm. I wonder how sore that thing is going to be.
That had to hurt a little bit.
It was also the play before Blankenship makes a tackle and comes up like limping a little bit. So he's feeling some kind of way. Then he has to go cover McLaurin, gets cleated on, but like that saves the game. That
it really did. And safety's thin. Like
I thought that might have been a catch too.
It was damn close. And I said to you, like, why is there not a better technology for those type of plays yet? Tennis. Like I always think of tennis and like how good that graphic is with the they should have that on the side. Like the NFL is a $1 billion industry, yet we still have chains and like a human eye calls on these type of plays. It's like, why don't you guys just get up the technology a little bit and just get it right every time? Because if they hadn't called that out of bounds, I think it stays
if they called it a catch. I think you're right.
Yeah, so I think whatever the call on the field was, it was that close that they were just going to keep it, whatever it was called. So they got lucky there. I mean, that was a hell of a play by Terry McLaurin. You even saw Nick Sirianni go like, "Hey man, nice fucking catch."
And the throw too. The throw was perfect.
Yeah, we can't give Sam Howell too much praise. Everybody thinks he sucks out there.
It is funny to think, not that you would ever question this, but like on the list of like these guys are much different species than us. Like the cleat on the forearm, like that'd put me out for a couple.
Yeah,
weeks.
How would you be able to type? Or would you have to go on short-term disability?
And I would be like feeling so sorry for myself. I'd be telling everybody about this terrible thing that happened to me, and meanwhout he's like out of the next. He's just out there.
Well, he's also 23. We would have bounced back a lot more, 15 years ago, Bo.
Sure. Plus the Toradol or whatever you got. Yeah, all that stuff helps. I'm curious to talk to Zach to hear what sort of the tenor of the locker room is like.
Well, you've been in a lot of these locker rooms yourself. You know a lot of these guys pretty well. What would you guess is the tenor of the locker room?
I would guess that it's like, division games are weird. Like we're happy to get a win. We got a lot to work on. It's sort of the Sirianni thing of it. Where there's a lot to clean up, but I'm happy we got a win. I'm sure that's what they're feeling. I'm sure AJ Brown is puffing his chest out. He had a big game. I don't like.
Got me 39 fantasy points.
They're just close. They're just like they're not too far away.
No,
right? And it is like over the arc of the season, it's a pretty good spot to be in that you are 4-0 and knowing that you're still probably going to be getting better as the season goes on.
Yeah, definitely. And if Jalen's he hasn't yet done the full four quarters, the play calling, the defense today. There's a lot I think that is easily correctable. We'll see.
They did. It seemed like they were trying to pick on Job a little bit, and
it did.
It worked, but like it was good coverage, and it's always hard to parse that out. Where
I thought there was a lot of catches today where it wasn't a reflection on the defense. It was just like Dallas Goedert's catch was great defense by the Commanders.
Right.
Bradbury had one where he was like perfectly coming down over the guy's shoulder. I think it was McLaurin maybe. He made a great catch. There was a lot of good catches with tough defense today.
Yeah, there's the one where Bradbury comes in and like gets his hand on the
Yeah.
ball, but it's still a catch.
Devontae going up, for that
Yes.
catch. It was pretty well
And
defended.
then one of the big completions of the game, which we haven't talked about, was on the way toward the eventual A.J. Brown touchdown. It was at 3rd and long where Jalen Hurts throws it, like just barely gets it to Olamide Zaccheaus with the two Commanders guys like diving for it. That was a heck of a throw.
Yeah, I saw Job getting some hate on the timeline during the game a little bit. Look, he's an undrafted, or what was he, 6th round pick? He's just
Job, undrafted.
Undrafted, yeah. So he's just starting out here. I think the thing with him is his position is usually pretty good. Like, I don't see him out of position a lot. So I think for his first 4 games essentially in the NFL, I know he was here last year on the practice squad and up and down a little bit. I think the kid's got a little potential. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be great, but
I think so too.
The fact that he seems to understand the positioning of where he needs to be, I think that's really encouraging for 4 games.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him on the field.
Yeah,
necessarily.
I think he's kind of stepped up a
There
little
will
bit.
be games in which the opposing team has 2 really good receivers, and you'll be worried about that. But yeah, they could do a lot worse.
It's the hardest position to play in the NFL. I mean,
think that's right.
You saw the calls today. I mean, those pass interference calls were just like their job's hard enough. I mean, and even the announcers, Joe Davis and the Moose, on that one deep ball that I think it was to Dotson. He had like a step on Slay. They were playing a little bit of like the arm flapping game, and he was like, "Oh, I'm surprised that's not." I'm like, you have to let the guys play at some point.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, you're running side by side with a world class athlete. Like, you're gonna have some hand slapping a little bit. Let them play.
Now, more importantly, in some degree than the Eagles coming out with a win here, was you going 2-0 again with your best bets, Jamie.
Woo. I see. This is where I'm an absolute idiot. I don't actually bet these. I think I did 2 weeks ago. I think I took one of my own plays. But yeah, I went 2-0 again today. Jalen Hurts, 2 touchdown passes. Brian Robinson finished the day with 45 yards. Hits on the under 53.5.
3 in a row, that one's hit. Yeah.
Just give myself a little pat on the back there. I just need to
0 for 2 for me. I tried. I went for a longer odds one on a Dallas Goedert touchdown. Didn't happen. And then the Jalen Carter, at least a half a sack. Very close.
He was held in somewhat check today. He had a couple plays. He just missed the sack where Howe kind of ducked under him. On that 3rd and 1, he kind of just picked a man up and put him on a sled and shoved him back, disrupting the pocket. But outside of like 2 or 3 plays, I thought the Commanders did a pretty good job on the inside of the line. Well, because I didn't really hear Davis's name much either.
Yes, I thought Jordan Davis was pretty quiet in this game.
Yeah, I thought they did. Fletcher Cox had a great game.
He
on the
was
inverse,
much more active. And Milton Williams was active as well.
Yeah, but the 2, Georgia Bulldogs, I thought were held in check a little bit by the Commanders.
Well, you too can get in on that kind of action. We got games going on right now. Game tonight. DraftKings Sportsbook is keeping us all in on the NFL action with great offers every single game day. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Throw 5 down on any of this week's epic matchups to walk away an instant winner. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Football is more fun when you're in on the action, so download the app now and sign up with code PHLY. New customers can bet just $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, with code PHLY. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget, Lake Charles in Louisiana, 21 and older, age varies by jurisdiction, void in ONT. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
Well, we have a picture of Mr. Blankenship's forearm.
Oh.
The game MVP, Reed Blankenship's forearm. It does look like it's a little red and irritated and possibly bruised there. This
nice.
is Jeff
Okay.
McClain tweeting this out. He knew who the game MVP was. He got right
That's
over
good.
there.
You can see the marks.
Yeah.
Hairy arm.
Yeah, relatively hairy.
Relatively hairy, I would say.
Yeah, we'll see if we can flash that up on the screen. But you can see the cleat marks for sure. Yeah, it looks like it's probably going to be a
compare
little
the hair
bruised.
level,
Well, he's got me beat, that's for sure. But yeah, there you have it. The Reed Blankenship forearm MVP of the game.
There you go. Apparently, Jalen Hurts is going to speak in a few minutes, and so Zach is going to talk to Jalen Hurts and then come up.
I guess
This is the
quarterback.
tiebreaker. Week 1, he said he was going to go with us. Week 2, he went to Jalen. Week 3, he's breaking the tie. Apparently, we matter less than Jalen. I guess that's fair.
There it is.
Wow,
There's
look at
Reed
Andrew.
Blankenship's arm.
Oh, man, his hand looks very red. Why is his hand so red?
That looks a little painful, honestly. And the way he's holding it, I mean, how?
Yeah.
Got him the win.
Yeah.
He's a player.
He is very good.
Yeah. That's a great job by the Eagles scouting department to find him.
And me, but,
Yeah.
we can share the credit. Success has many parents.
Yeah, with Brown out and Evans out, I'm becoming good on the Terrell Edmonds. I know he's got to play out of necessity right now, but when everybody's full strength, I'm good with giving Sidney Brown a chance. I know Evans technically is kind of ahead of Brown on the depth chart, but Terrell Edmonds is fine as a veteran backup.
He's fine. I thought that he was a little bit unlucky on that roughing call on the sideline.
Yeah, that was a little
Howell's
tough.
trying to get the first down. That's it's a bang play. But yeah, I mean he is what he is, right? And he and Evans, there's not really much of a difference between the two of them. Whereas there's much more variance you would expect from Sidney Brown. He could be better. He could be much worse.
Yeah. So when everybody's back, I would love to see Sidney Brown steal a job here, because him and Blankenship, if he had a nice play, that touchdown breakup last week, Sidney Brown did. It was a shame he couldn't kind of keep it rolling and have him in this week. But if him and Blankenship can become a little something back there, the passing game with the safeties and the linebackers is definitely a concern.
I would agree, but I feel
They're
better
maintaining.
about the linebackers than I did 2 weeks ago.
Yes. Well, that's
And
because these
presumably
guys...
Nakobe Dean is coming back at some point soon. Eventually, the Eagles are going to decide they want to be actually good in the middle of the field and let Christian Ellis get on the field. But for now, they're doing
Bo
okay.
Wulf.
What else is worrying you? It doesn't have to be Eagles related if there are just things in your life that you want to unload on.
Yeah. Sit down on my couch. I think Jalen's inconsistency has me a little worried.
It's been 4 games now.
Yeah.
And we haven't, we are complaining about a game in which he played pretty well.
He did.
But it's been 4 games and we haven't seen last year's version of him.
Yeah, I think the reason last year was so impressive and exciting was that it was just consistent, like throughout. He just always seemed to make the right reads, the right calls, the right throws. Everything was pretty consistent. This year, you're seeing that, but only in smaller dosage. Part of that is credit to the other defenses. I think, teams spent a lot of, if you had the Eagles on the schedule this year, like the Rams next week, I'm sure they put a little work into Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense. So, ironing out that consistency, and if that's a Brian Johnson and Jalen thing or whatever it is, that does have me a little bit concerned for a 4-0 team.
Sure.
But there's been times when he hasn't looked good this year, and he didn't really see that much last year.
Yeah, I realize that it sounds silly.
It does, yeah.
But I would say my biggest concern about the team right now is probably the way that Jalen Hurts is playing. Because the things that are actually weaker, the linebackers, the secondary, were expected to be weaknesses.
Yes.
And there are ways that they can compensate for those things. If Jalen Hurts is not going to get back to what he was last season, they can still make the Super Bowl. Like that, and that's a crazy thing to say, but their offensive ceiling is not the same, and I don't think that they can be one of the 2 or 3 best offenses that are able to move the ball down the field consistently against the best defenses, unless he is like he was last year.
Yeah, They do have a really tough stretch of games in the middle of the year. They are lucky that these first 4 games were relatively easy. If the Commanders are the best team of those 4, it's good that they're 4-0, obviously. But you're going to have some real tough teams coming up here in the not-so-distant future.
Yeah, and I don't think next week's trip to Los Angeles is a gimme.
Anytime you're going west, that's different. And the Rams came back today and got a win over the Colts late. So, Stafford is back to being a, middle of the pack or higher quarterback after his injury last year. So Cooper Kupp might be coming back next week. And now all of a sudden with Pachua and Cooper Kupp, that's all of a sudden a formidable wide receiver room where you're kind of getting picked apart in the passing game. And you start to kind of wonder, like, ooh, what's Sean McVay, boy genius, going to have cooking for this Eagles defense? And we'll see. And
then after that, it's at the Jets. You feel pretty good about that at this point.
Yeah.
And then home against the Dolphins for the Kelly Green game on Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, and Yos 22H, yes, he had 300 yards, 2 touchdowns today, and yes, we're mildly complaining about him. I don't think anybody's.
Yeah, I mean this is a team with Super Bowl expectations.
Yes,
the stakes are high and the bar is high. It's okay to be nitpicking about that.
Yeah, I mean, not everything is puppy dogs, rainbows, and ice cream here. There's been quarters and stretches at a time where he hasn't looked himself. And if you're going to be the hardest thing to do in the NFL, the reason why the Patrick Mahomes is so great, Josh Allen is so great, is they're consistent. Like that's the hardest thing, is just to be consistent. So that's what we're looking for this year, because he is pretty much the moon to the Eagles universe here, and they need him. I guess the sun's more important than the moon.
Yeah,
I guess equally both important.
I like that though. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them can be the moon. Sirianni can be the other.
Yeah. So they need him, and he's got to be better if you're gonna play.
And then he can take that and talk about the Tides and how you got to be more consistent than the Tides. Or it's like a rising tide lifts all boats type thing. He'll have some kind of tide.
Absolutely.
Thing,
yeah.
Well, if you're like a West Coast Eagles fan, or you're thinking, okay, this team is better than these schlubs Bo and Jamie are talking about, I'm going to go out and watch the Eagles against the Rams next week. Maybe you want to go to Game Time, because buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful, and Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Game Time has flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They've got the images of the seat views, so you're not going to get bamboozled, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss, and it's the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
We have a Jalen Hurts quote from the press conference, and Zach will be joining us shortly, leaving the Jalen Hurts press conference. He said, "I think tension and pressure builds character. I think a win like this does a lot for the spirit of the team. It shifts the spirit of the team. It lights a fire for us to continue to grow. Winning is the main thing." This man's a poet.
But why didn't, then the follow-up is, why didn't they already have that type of spirit to begin with? Why do they need to eke out a victory over a division rival?
Iron sharpen iron, something like that. Pressure makes diamonds,
Be the thermostat, not the thermometer.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. He's got the coach speak down great, man.
He sure does.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. All right, well, we will wait hearing from Mr. Berman. Make sure that you are liking and subscribing, all that stuff on the YouTube channel. Make sure that you are subscribing to the audio feeds on your podcast feeds, all that good stuff, and telling all your friends about it. From a Sirianni standpoint, How do you feel about like the he's like getting in Emmanuel Forbes's face at one point. Then he's telling McLaurin nice catch, like just the general like bombast of Sirianni on the sidelines. You into it or not?
I think I kind of am, but I also go, it's going to bite you at some point. I think the dude just loves football so much he can't control himself.
I'm good with it because it's real. It's authentic.
Yeah,
that's what he's really like.
It's genuine. Yeah. Like this dude just lives, eats, and breathes football. So like, I don't think he can contain himself. So I'm okay with it because you'd rather have that guy than somebody that's just like good at designing plays and doesn't really love football, you know? So you live with it. It's fine.
Football guy.
Yeah, he's definitely a football guy. You know, his high school family and the records they've sent, they all live for it.
And don't forget about Matt Union.
Oh, yeah.
Larry Karras, yeah. Elsewhere, Dolphins lose, so the Eagles
the Bills
are now
kind of worked them a little bit.
Only 2 undefeated teams. I don't know what's going on in that Niners-Cardinals game, but I imagine the Niners are probably winning that game, which would leave
somebody on the chat said Parsons was limping off, so I don't know if he came up lame on something, but something to watch for there. Yeah, the Niners are up 21-3. Chargers are killing the Raiders, up 24-7. Cowboys up 21-3 on the Patriots, as you said.
And there you go.
And the Rams did get that overtime win today, your next opponent, against the Colts. And Anthony Richardson kind of led them back. He's been impressive. And C.J. Stroud's getting some praises. The number 1 pick, Bryce Young, not yet getting those praises. But the other 2 quarterbacks appear to be pretty good.
And you got to imagine that C.J. Stroud is buoyed by playing for such a handsome guy in D'Amico Ryans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm trying to think what else there is to go over here because aside from the generality of like what a weird game this was, and division games are weird, you know, we talked about it. Like moving forward, we'll see what happens with Juergens. We'll see what happens with the secondary. They're going to have to do some stuff there. I don't know what to say other than like I'm just eager already to see what Jalen Hurts comes out like next week, and is he gonna have a more sharp performance?
Yeah, that Rams team is
another team that on paper has a very bad offensive line, but that was supposed to be the case today too.
Yeah, and the travel out west is always a little difficult. So we'll see. He's got to come. It's got to come soon here. I was pretty encouraged by his second half. I really was. I thought he was better. I thought the play calling and communication issues weren't great, but I thought Jalen looked a lot better than he did in the first half.
All right. Well, the good news is we have somebody who can tell us a little bit more about what happened in the locker room, what happened at the podium, and so we welcome to the show from Lincoln Financial Field the handsome, the intrepid Zach Berman.
What's going on? Good to see you guys.
What a backdrop. Mr. King of the Backdrop has got himself a nice backdrop. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to see you guys. Excited to talk about this game.
What did you learn from the locker room? Give us the updates.
There was a lot of sentiment about how they needed a game like this, how a game like this builds speaking to Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, different players in the locker room, Nick Sirianni, that this type of game puts you in these situations should you be in them again. Like A.J. Brown said that they are not they don't care about being 4-0 right now, but they care a lot about these experiences that they're getting in becoming 4-0, the different ways to win. Sirianni said that he doesn't care how you win, but it's important that you learn how to win in these different ways. So that was a big talking point in the locker room. This was the first overtime win that the Eagles have had since 2019. I believe it's the first overtime game that the Eagles have had under Sirianni. Sirianni was trying to think, and he said, I had to go through my mind. That was brought up to Sirianni in his press conference, and it was certainly the first overtime. It's the first overtime win that they've had since 2019. I know that. But Jalen Hurts, for instance, said it's the first time he's ever been in a game where they had to win on a kick. That seemed odd to me when I heard that. But he said you never want to leave it in the kicker's hands. I mean, Nick Sirianni said he doesn't even watch kicks. He just looks at Michael Clay, and Michael Clay gives him the thumbs up or thumbs down, basically. So it was interesting hearing different angles about that. But the overlying message was that they have a lot to clean up. They're 4-0, and a game like this is helpful. And then we can get into like the nitty gritty of some of the situations and the particulars and things like that.
Yeah, I think, Zach, one of the most interesting like situational philosophy calls there came on the A.J. Brown touchdown late that led to the taunting penalty, which ended up costing them as the Commanders marched down the field and scored to send it to overtime. Was there any talk among Sirianni, players, Jalen himself, about did they leave too much time on him? Should they have just run it out? What was the kind of vibe on that after the game?
Yeah, Sirianni said the objective is to score, right? And
he's not wrong.
So when you score, that's a good. Now he said you don't want to have that penalty, and AJ Brown took responsibility for that. Said he's a veteran, that can't happen. Jalen Hurts said something to AJ Brown on the sideline about that. I asked Jalen Hurts what made him go for the end zone in that situation, and he said it's feel. He said it's like when I asked him last week about the staying in the pocket on the Zacchaeus touchdown, and you just have a feel when you're there. He said you have a feel. He said playmakers make plays essentially, and they made a play in that situation. AJ Brown said that Forbes was kind of on him all game, was being aggressive, and they thought they had a shot there, and it clearly worked. But as far as the timing of it, Nick said that you go back and forth with that kind of stuff, but you want to score. And his quibble wasn't as much with the amount of time left on the clock as the penalty that gave the field position to Washington.
If I can just backtrack there, Zach, did Jalen reference you asking him the question about the Zacchaeus touchdown throw, or is that you referencing it?
No, Jalen did.
He did. Oh, so he's on to you. He's
No, he said you asked me last week about this. And then he said it's the same
he's
answer.
keeping track. I think that's interesting.
He's on to you, Berman.
It's the short guy who's trying to get inside his head, right? So
just climb on up there. Just get right in there, pop it open. What did you think of it though, as an analyst, not as the reporter? Did you think that was the right thing to do?
I thought scoring was the right thing to do. Yeah, I mean, I hear you about too much time left on the clock. But you don't want to leave it to change. Like so it was 2nd and 4 in that situation, right?
2nd and 4, about 1:42
1:43 left. Yeah.
Washington has one timeout, and so you are opening up the possibility to lose the game by scoring a touchdown there.
True. Okay, I see your point there. So actually, Nick did say I'm gonna add one thing before I give the analysis. Nick said that even if that ball's incomplete, if you're aggressive in that situation, it affects the way they play you on the next play on 3rd down. So whether that has merit or not, that's probably fair. Nick Sirianni's explanation too. I didn't have as much of an issue with it because at that point in the game to get 7 I think that's significant. There's so many things that could happen, right? Like you saw, by the way, in overtime when they have the intentional grounding penalty.
True.
Right? If you say you're going to play conservative there, it takes one holding call to push you back. Or there's a handful of things that could happen. I don't have a problem with scoring a touchdown there. Probably a little too much time left on the clock, but you also they have to go the length of the field. All right, so I don't have an issue with that. I do have an issue with the penalty, and AJ Brown can't have that penalty in that situation, and he would tell you that, and Sirianni said that, and Jalen didn't say that, but Jalen said it to him. But no, I did not have an issue with them scoring a touchdown in that spot. I do know, I'm on Twitter during the game or X during the game and seeing, the reaction from fans, and I know that was a controversial play there, but I'm kind of on Nick's side there that if you have a chance to get in the end zone, unless it's like when they're letting you score, but with the amount of time there was there, you get in the end zone. I think take the points.
So Zach, philosophically, there was another interesting one that came up in the game, and I would have denied the penalty and forced Ron Rivera's head into a little bit of a blender there. The prior scoring play, you went for 2 to eliminate the field goal. It was when they were up 4. They accepted the penalty, sent it back to a 3rd and 6. Howell picks it up, I believe, to McLaurin on the right side there. Did Sirianni address that situationally? Because I, for one, would have been intrigued by a 4th and 1 or 2 situation where a field goal is meaningless and they had to go for it. Did that come up at all? Because philosophically, football-wise, I think that's a very interesting what do you do situation.
No, that's a great question. And that did not come up. That will come up, I imagine, on his call tomorrow, if not from Bo or me, from a different reporter. Because, that was an interesting one. The game situation play that came up was the 3rd and 11 handoff to Gainwell.
That sucked.
And
the coward sweep.
He said last week they ran that play on 3rd and 8 and it worked and no one asked about it, right? And so he's like, when it doesn't work, I didn't like that call. That's a call, 3rd and 11 in that spot. When you're talking about red zone offense, handing it off to Kenny Gainwell, when you have A.J. Brown, who was eating the entire half, right? Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. I didn't like that call. I didn't much like that explanation either. I mean, even 3rd and 11 is different than 3rd and 8. But just because it worked, like, what are the odds of a 3rd and 11 run working? And maybe what you're trying to do is pick up 7 and get into a 4th and manageable. But no, I didn't like that. And I respect Sirianni's explanation for it. He said he had conviction in the call. He talked about it with Brian Johnson. They liked it. He stands by it. But that's one that I disagree with.
Zach, I know that we have some viewers and listeners who are here just as much for the Zach Berman insight as they are for like the Eagles insight. So I do have to ask, did you go to Sirianni instead of the locker room? Because before you did locker room instead of Sirianni, what's the reason behind that?
Yeah, so today was one where there were certain questions that I wanted that I had for Sirianni, that I had for Jalen Hurts, and A.J. Brown went to the podium, and I wanted to speak to A.J. Brown. This is one of these games, and there's so much. Like, I'm going to have a handful of different stories from this game that I wanted to tackle different people. So I was in the locker room. I spoke to Jordan Mailata, 3-sack Nicholas Morrow, handful of other guys there. But I did go to Sirianni and Hurts today because, honestly, I'm not just pandering to you guys. I know this is a big part of my job responsibility is this post-game show. I knew you would have questions from Nick, questions from Jalen, and I didn't think it was appropriate if I was saying that I was getting color from player X when there were some of these big pertinent questions. Like one thing I anticipated you guys asking me was about the penalty on the quarterback sneak. So I asked Sirianni that, and he said he doesn't want to get into what the explanation was from the officials, but he said that maybe they were offsides, or he said they were offsides of something that they're going to have to look at and correct. So he kind of took that way out, but he did say the 11 penalties was uncharacteristic of them, something they have to look back on. This game was called very oddly, I thought, especially in the first half. So that's why I asked Sirianni about the penalties. But to answer your question succinctly, Bo, I went to Nick and Jalen today because I figured there were going to be questions pertinent to Nick and Jalen that I wanted to make sure to address for the two of you and for our audience.
Yeah, Todd in the chat, Zach says you can pander us whenever you want. It's totally cool. Injury updates. Cam Jurgens obviously left the game. Some people on Twitter saying he's in a walking boot. And then maybe most importantly, Reed Blankenship's forearm, the MVP of the game. How are those guys doing?
Yeah, I did not see Cam in a walking boot, but I didn't see Cam on the sideline, so that's not good. He left the game, was not out there to start the second half, was looking through the binoculars, did not return to the sideline. Blankenship, my former colleague Jeff McClain tweeted out the picture of him. I was in on Hurts. I'm
sure he's fine.
I did not speak to Blankenship, but he did not go into the medical tent. By the way, I was watching Blankenship as they returned to the sideline very closely, and he sat down on the bench. It was being looked at, but he did not go back to the tent. So that's a decent sign. I guess we'll see this week, but I would pay attention to the Jurgens thing because the fact that he did not return to the game nor the sideline would be a concern, and we'll get more on that. I don't know how much Nick will say tomorrow, but certainly, by Wednesday we'll see a practice.
Well, it gives Bo a chance to trot out all of his Suo Opeta stats. So we have a happy co-host right here.
Absolutely.
Now, Zach, did you want to apologize to Jamie for making his heart drop when you tweeted that the Reed Blankenship play was going to get overturned because the Washington offense was going on the field?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. What I was trying to do in that situation was be the eyes and the ears for the fans at home, right? Who, I don't know what, I do actually have the game on my laptop on YouTube TV, but it's a little behind, right? So I don't know what they were showing there, but I'm at the game. I want to tell the audience exactly what's happening in front of me. So the punt teams were on the field, and then the replays on the screen, and Washington sends their offense back out there, and the Eagles actually start sending their defense back out there.
Oh, wow.
Which was why I put out there, I didn't say this was going to be overturned.
Looks
I said,
like. That's
looks
accurate.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's accurate.
Based on what happened. Yeah. So what I was trying to do there was really kind of give, I think sometimes when I like tweet out, 24-20, 3:59 left on the clock. I probably don't need to do that. Everyone's watching the game, right? But if you could give like a call, that's me like 7 years ago being like the paper of record at the Inquirer, right? But if there's things happening in front of me that like only I guess the 69,000 people here see, but people back home don't, I want to make sure that I'm giving that. So sorry to make your heart skip a beat there, but that is literally what occurred.
And the last one from me, Zach, the main story from the game is Aaron Siposs coming back. I mean, oof.
Yeah.
Yeah, Braden Mann was not the man tonight. Huh?
Braden Boy, more like.
Yeah, but he did put down the hold on the game-winning field goal, right?
That's true.
So no. I don't know if they bring someone back, it'd be Siposs. What they could do, by the way, is they could just keep doing this like punter roulette thing where you just bring a guy on practice squad, trot him out there every 3 weeks and save a spot on the 53-man roster. No, this was not a good game from Mann. I imagine Mann will have one more week, the Rams game next week, and then they'll have to make a decision whether to put him on the 53 or go with someone else. But this was not the game you wanted to see from the punter.
Yeah, but the hold was on point.
The hold was on point, correct.
Last one for me, Zach, because I know that you've got some writing to do, and you and I will have plenty of time to unpack this game a little bit further over the next couple of days. Just watching it live, your take on Jalen Hurts' performance tonight.
I thought that this was the best game he played this year, which was what Sirianni said after the game. But I thought that he put the ball in spots for some of these guys to make plays. He didn't turn the ball over, although there were some close calls. I didn't quite understand the intentional grounding. I disagreed with the intentional grounding call in overtime there because I thought there was a wide receiver with it. It was realistic to throw it deep. But I thought some of Jalen's throws to AJ were right on. He put it in a tight window to Dallas Goedert on that third down conversion in the red zone. And he took care of he did not turn the ball over. To give you kind of some color from the locker room, players said that Jalen had like a particular fire to him today. Fire's the term that AJ used. And that guys were saying he was very, you could tell something different about him today. So Jalen was, I thought this was Jalen's best game to date. There were plays that still could have been made, but I thought he put the ball in spots for his playmakers to make plays. Again, though, I haven't gone back and watched it, and oftentimes actually those watching from home or from the TV studio, or I shouldn't say the TV studio, from the studio, get kind of a better picture than when I'm in the press box sometimes. So we'll see. But I thought he played well. Did you agree or disagree?
I thought he played okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was encouraged by the second half. I thought the first half, there seems to me to be some kind of communication issues between him and Goddard, and it happened a couple times. I don't know if Brian Johnson's getting the calls in late or it's rushed. To me, it looks like there's a couple communication issues offensively.
Okay. Yeah, that's something that I will look into this week. I thought AJ was
Spectacular.
special tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's one thing. There's that won't kind of be my main story, but at one point when I didn't think the game was going to overtime, I was preparing for an AJ Brown story because I was just like, man, they couldn't cover him, and the first touchdown he had was special. I think I saw NFL Next Gen Stats said by the time he caught it, there was a 2% chance of a touchdown, and the run after the catch there. He said once he broke the first tackle, he knew he was scoring, but that was a really impressive run after the catch. So I thought AJ certainly helped Jalen tonight. That's for sure.
Yeah, and Zacchaeus and Devontae did a great job blocking for him downfield.
Absolutely.
Well, Zach, we will look forward to reading your story on allphly.com. We will talk to you on our PHLY Eagles podcast tomorrow at 3:30. And good luck. We'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Thanks, guys.
See you, Zach.
The chat is just a buzz about how beautiful that backdrop was, and we know that Zach cares
Very pretty.
a lot about the backdrop. So I'm happy for him that he was able to pull that together. And what a transition. Speaking of backdrops, all this FOCO stuff.
Oh yeah,
behind us, Jamie. FOCO
gorgeous.
Is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. The best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It's football and tailgating season. Overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, everything you need for a game. FOCO has hooked PHLY up and provided awesome pieces for our sets, and they have your back for Philly sports. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY for 10% off.
Well,
right.
In non-Eagles news, it appears the Phillies' first-round matchup is set. They will be hosting the Miami, Florida, whatever the hell they are, Marlins.
How do you feel about that?
I
Vis-a-vis
never like
the
seeing a
Diamondbacks.
division opponent in the playoffs.
Just like today we saw.
Because the division games can be weird, and they know each other well, and I would have preferred the Diamondbacks, but I think they shouldn't. I don't think we as fans should sweat either of these teams. I think the Phillies are playing really well right now. So I like their odds, but it's official. The Marlins and Phillies will be the game.
Starts on Tuesday?
Tuesday, Wednesday, and if needed, Thursday.
And what's our setup here on PHLY?
We're going to be doing pre and post games for all of them. So Tuesday, I haven't seen the game times yet. I saw somebody in the chat say it was a nighttime game. So we'll be on as a pregame show, a postgame show, and tomorrow morning we're going to be on at 11:30. But game days we're going to be flying by the seat of our pants with these game times.
Busy week for you.
Yeah, busy week, but it's Red October. So, the Eagles are 4-0. The Phillies are hosting a home playoff game. It's a good time to be a Philadelphia sports fan.
Well said. And that's all you need to know. Unless you only care about the Sixers, in which case you can listen to the Kyle Neubeck, Derek Bodner podcast that was dropped today as an emergency reaction to the Drew Holiday trade to the Boston Celtics. So we've got you covered on everything. Tomorrow, Zach and I will be back here to talk more about this game at 3:30. Jamie and Renee have you covered on the Phillies all week. Lots of other stuff going on. And
Sixers Media Day tomorrow, so I know
Sixers
Derek and
Media
Kyle
Day
are going to be
tomorrow,
there.
and flying out for training
flying
camp.
out to camp in Colorado. Is James Harden there tomorrow? That's going to be
I doubt it, right?
Then I mean, nobody really wants him, so we might as well play the good soldier and whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyway.
By the way, according to Jimmy Kempski as well, Jake Elliott not a fan of Chicken Little as the nickname.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Big Jimmy Kempski pops on this podcast.
Yeah. How about that? Shout out to Jimmy for getting the Chicken Little quote.
There you go. Good job by Jimmy. All right. The Eagles move to 4-0 with a 34-31 overtime victory. We will have plenty to talk about over the course of the week. Obviously, everybody wants to know what happened to Goose Wisely, which of our rosters ended up winning this week. We'll talk about that and unpack that tomorrow and talk a little bit more about what Jalen Hurts did, what the defense needs to do better against presumably a better quarterback next week. But all is okay. 4-0 with room to improve. That's about as good as Nick Sirianni could ask for.
There's going to be 2 teams left, the 49ers and the Eagles, undefeated most likely. And that's the cream of the NFC right there. So could these teams be on a collision course for another NFC championship game? It certainly appears that way early.
They will certainly meet in the link in December for a rematch. So that will be something to look forward to. So for Jamie and Andrew and Zach and all of the sickos in the chat, we thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.